No. Ahí estoy. We are recording. There we are.
Yeah.
Well, we are a few, but the good ones. For the ones who are listening on their houses. This is the message. All right. So, a very, very, very brief biography of both of them. Of course, we all have at least heard of Ernest Hemingway. Claire
Mm-hmm.
Keegan is younger, and perhaps, okay, some of us have heard of her or read about her because she has become a well known figure, but she's still in the shadows. I mean, she's not that popular, but she started to become popular. She's not very prolific. She doesn't write much. I mean, her pace is very slow. Well, let me start with Keegan. She was born in 1968 in Wicklow, in Ireland, in a in an area, a rural area. She studied literature and politics at Loyola University in New Orleans because she had a fellowship, and then she earned an MA at the University of Wales, and then in Trinity College, another one. Well, her debut was with Antarctica, a collection of short stories. She writes mainly short stories or novellas. Her novels are really short, if you want to consider them novels at all. They are, but short. The Observer in those times called these stories, the Antarctica, among the finest recently written in English. In 2007, she wrote the collection that was called Walk the Blue Fields, with huge critical acclaim, and she won the Edge Hill Prize for the strongest collection published in that year. It's a very, very, very good collection of short stories, and the story, the same title, Walk the Blue Fields, is perfect. Um, in 2010, she wrote Foster, that won the David Burns Award, and they say of her, Keegan is a rarity, someone I will always want to read. Foster was started as a short story, but then she wrote a little bit more and made it into a novel. And last year it was a movie, but the movie was called The Quiet Girl. You might have seen it. They showed it, sorry, in some of the platforms, I guess. And is the first, or at least as far as I'm concerned, is one of the first films done entirely in Irish Gaelic. It's
Really?
it's very, very interesting. It's called The Quiet Girl. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie. Those small movies that really stay with you. Well, the short story and the novel are also very interesting to read. Um, then she wrote, after that, she wrote The Forest's Daughter, that again, it was a short story and then it became a kind of novel. And last year, Small Things Like These, that is a novel that is currently, I don't know if it has finished being done, but it was done again in Ireland, and Cillian Murphy, the famous actor now, is the protagonist of Small Things Like These. So it's a film to watch, to wait and watch. Very interesting novel. And last but not least, So Late in the Day, that is the short story that we are reading, and it's part of a small book that is called So Late in the Day, published in 2023. But she wrote So Late in the Day for the New Yorker in February 2022, and then it
Also,
appeared in this collection of long short stories, let's say. Because I mean, this looks long, but it's not that long. The only thing that is divided into four parts, so it makes it feel longer. And well, something about Hemingway. What to say about Hemingway? Well, he was born in
Sorry,
1899.
Keegan was from a Catholic family, wasn't she?
Yes, if she not just that, but she is
I mean,
uh,
because it's relevant to this Irish thing, yeah, between
yeah, she's a
Catholics and
farmer
Protestants.
girl also. She still lives in the farm, and she says I heard an interview, a radio interview some days ago, and she still lives there and she enjoys the farm chores. She mentions that her brother has horses and that she likes staying with everything that has four legs. She says she loves animals a lot. She's single. I'm not sure if she's got a partner or what. She's single with no children, so she devotes her time to the farm, also to writing and giving conferences and interviews, of course. But she likes being in the farm and she likes the farm life. She enjoys very much. Well, going to Hemingway, he was born in 1899 in Illinois and died in 1961. Sorry, in Idaho, U.S. He began working as a journalist after high school directly. So he has no real training in being a journalist, but I mean, he had a lot of training later. He was wounded while serving as an ambulance driver in World War One. He also went to fight for the Spanish Civil War. Um, it says he was one of the well-known group of expatriates in Paris, and he soon embarked in a life of traveling, skiing, fishing, and hunting that would be reflected in his work. In that, I want to make a kind of parenthesis because even though Claire Keegan is contemporary, we can make a kind of parallel because she loves this question of being isolated, perhaps from big cities and living in a farm and being devoted to farm life. And he also had this question of hunting, fishing, contact with nature. I mean, we are not going to compare them in their personalities, but I mean, this question of not being part of the big cities, not being part of the elite of writers, but being in contact with nature, etc., influence their writings in both of them. Well, one of the first collections of Hemingway's story collection is In Our Time of 1925, then a novel, The Sun Also Rises, in 1926. Later novels include A Farewell to Arms, 1929, To Have and Have Not, 1937. Well, he had a lifelong love for Spain and a fascination with bullfighting that is shown in many of his novels and also short stories. For example, For Whom the Bell Tolls in 1940. Other short story collections include Men Without Women in 1927, The Fifth Column 1938. He lived in Cuba sometime from 1940, and there he wrote The Old Man and the Sea, that is set in Cuba. And he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1954. He left Cuba after the revolution, um, and he was depressed, shot himself, although in those times it was said that he was cleaning the gun, but no.
But it ran in the family also, this
Yes,
medical
absolutely.
thing.
Yes, this question.
Yeah.
And well, he is well known for his succinct and concentrated prose style, and he's a master because I mean he has made a school of that, and that's why I chose Claire Keegan to pair Hemingway and someone else. Well, I chose her a very contemporary one that in a way follows a little bit of his trace, no? His tracks. Well, let's start with, but we can go back and forth with these two stories, but I would like to
The
start
thing is
with.
that many call Hemingway a chauvinist because of the male role and all the activity, fishing, hunting, that for him were male activities,
Mm-hmm.
and Keegan a feminist. I don't know.
Sort of, yeah. I'm not sure
Yeah, but
if she. I mean, I'm not sure if
no, but
she.
it's the way that
No, the way she writes, yes, but I mean, I don't
that
think she
I
has
mean,
any flags.
the
No, she.
critics. I don't know if they consider themselves, but the critics are okay.
No, I understand what you mean. But I think that she is crossed by the modern topics, and one of the modern topic is feminism. She she writes a lot about women in general, and especially women in far places in Ireland, in isolated places in Ireland. This is the exception. Is one of the few stories that she writes from the point of view of a man. Then
I'm dabbling.
we will
I'm
discuss
dabbling.
about this mind. Sorry.
I'm in dabbling, not in
In
far. Not
Dublin, no, 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 no. This is in Dublin. No, well, although he doesn't live in Dublin. In Dublin,
no,
he lives
but it's
in
set in
he
the
lives in
painting was.
near Wicklow. This where she lives. So
Mhm.
he travels. He commutes
Yeah,
to Wicklow. It's not very far. Wicklow from Dublin must be an hour or less. So he commutes to work in Dublin. She doesn't describe city life. On the contrary, she describes his place more
yeah,
than.
of course.
But it's interesting that it's written in the third person, but from the point of view of a man. In this case, Cahal. I look it up. I did my homework. I would have said Cathal, but it is not Cahal. That's Irish. And the name means.
Yeah, well, the other day I watched a video of names, Irish names.
Oh.
Yeah, and you have to. They was guess how to pronounce the
Mm.
Irish name.
Well, many of the Irish names are mispronounced in America, because you know that the Americans are like obsessed with the Irish. All of them think that they have Irish origin, and that's a joke in Dublin. It's a joke in Ireland. Every time they see an American, they say he believes he's one of us.
Yeah.
Um, and they mispronounce the names, or I'm not sure if they mispronounce. They pronounce their way. So many
The way
times.
they read it is like when we'll say students don't read as a
Yeah, but I
complete
suppose,
Spanish.
I mean, the way the Americans pronounce it is the way we would have done it, because it's more logical for English. But we have to think
Yeah.
that Irish has nothing to do with English.
No.
The rules of the Irish are who knows the rules of the Irish. So this man is called Cahal. And they pronounce in Ireland, even though they speak English and not everybody knows Irish, a very few populate, not very many speak Irish, uh, but they respect the names, so people know how to pronounce their names. The name Cahal means strong in battle, so
Oh,
as a reference, no? It could be the name could be battle or trial, strong in battle in general. I don't know if she chose it on purpose or it just sounded right, but in case we miss something there. So as we said, it's through the eyes of this man that we are going to see his stories, but it's written in the third person. But she is never omniscient. She is always uh, directed with this point of view, the man's point of view. So we know that when there is a point of view that, in a way, belongs to certain character, in general, is not reliable. So we are going to see that he's not reliable as a narrator. So this third person is not reliable at all. So she starts like with a setting that is an interesting setting, because the narrator describes as a very hot summer, which is not normally the case in Dublin. Uh, there is a nice description of the place where he works. That is what he can see through the window uh, in an office, and everything is very nice, and the weather is fine. There is a close breeze, etc., etc. But you feel there's some kind of distress. There's a shadow cross, for example. And then by the end of this paragraph, It says, despite the tangle of human upsets and the knowledge of how everything must end. By that moment, we don't know a thing, so we just
What is
say, okay, someone reflecting. But then we realize that is our first clue or evidence of what is going to be disclosed. From the very beginning, the writer, in this case, or the author, wants us to empathize with Cajal, and then little by little, at least I don't sympathize with him. We start disclosing what happens. But at the beginning, we think, poor man, something happens to him. Um, the description of his day at the office is interesting. So talking about what he's doing, and then he meets one of his mates, a girl, Cynthia, that is brightly dressed and laughing over the phone, but stops laughing and stops talking when she sees him. So again, we feel there's something there. Why did she stop? Why did she change her mood when she sees Cajal? So there is again another clue, and this question of saying um something like, "How are you doing?" Grand, and you? Well, thanks for asking. So there is like something in the air, that there is a kind of distress, no? That, but we don't know what it is. Um, then it says he took up the coffee, leaving before he'd sugar it, before she could say anything more. So he's afraid that she said something else. So there again, we suspect that there's something in the air. He continue working, and he meets the boss. They describe the boss, and the boss is very kind to him. Uh, we don't know the boss, so we don't know if he's always like that. But it sounds over kind, especially when he says, "You know, there is no need to stay on. Why don't you call it a day?" So we understand that there is something happening there, that he could have stayed home and he didn't, for a reason. No, we don't know. Well, then we understand that he may want to be with someone else, not to be alone. But I mean, the boss is very kind, and he asks, "Did you have something to eat? Why don't you stay home?" So it's over kind. So you suspect what's happening to this man, no? He wants to finish what he's doing. He continued for a while. He continued working. He changed his work because he was doing a budget and he couldn't make it. So he changes to something more mechanical. So again, we find out that something is going on in his mind, that he cannot concentrate on the budget. So he continues with something that's easier, answering answering letters that were mechanical, automatic. So that was very easy. And he leaves at 5. That is his timetable. But again, when he sees someone coming, that is the cleaning girl, he hides because he doesn't want to talk. No? It says the Polish girl who cleaned after hours was leaning against the banister texting. He felt her watching him as he passed, and was glad to reach the foot of the stairs and the exit, to get out on the street where it was noisy and a hot queue of cars pushed at the traffic light. So he rather stay in a place full of people that won't ask him or won't watch him. No, he has this question. She's watching me. The other one wants to talk. So again, we are summing up things that are suspicion. And then he goes to the bus stop. and in the bus stop, he has the feeling that the bus won't come again. No, he's like emotionally confused, and he puts that emotional confusion into the things because for no particular reason a part of him doubted that the bus would come that day, but it soon came up. Why not? Why not? Because he had something in himself that is uncertain. But I mean,
Or a reason to feel even worse when you see,
even
when you want to say, everything is going
yes.
wrong today.
Hmm. And again, when you have a problem and the world goes on without you in it, you feel bad because they don't understand that I'm having a bad day or that something is happening to me, and the world goes on, of course. Of course. Again, he meets someone who wants to talk. That is this woman, who is an elderly lady who's talking about her niece, no, her grandchildren. They are going to for a dip on Sunday. I don't know where. So she is very lively, in contrast with him, that is, as we say, not very much lively. And she wants to talk. He just murmurs things so not to continue the conversation. But there is a moment when she takes turns to a novel. And well, they talk about having children. Have you got children? No, and well, that's the end of it. She goes to a novel, and of course, when a novelist writes about another novel, you feel curious. So I went for a search, and this the woman who walked into doors is by another Irish, that is Roddy Doyle, very very well known. But it's interesting because it is about a woman called Paula that in the novel explains why she married this man in the first place, the man that her husband, and why she stayed with him. That's the plot of the story. I haven't read it. I'm just telling you the synopsis I found because I think it is relevant. Of course, it's not very important if you have never heard of the story of the novel and if you don't look
That
for
is
it.
correct.
But if you can look for it, as it was the case, it had a certain relevance there, no? And then in the end, it says, it had been an eventful day and much the same as any other. Later on, we are going to find out that it should have been a very eventful day, but it has been an uneventful day. And says, then at the stop for Joy was in, a young woman came down the aisle and sat in the vacated seat across from him. Again, a woman. He sat breathing in her scent until it occurred to him that there must be thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of women who smell the same. You are in the dark.
Mhm. Because the sun is going down,
Yeah, yes, I know.
so I have to turn on the light. There.
Yes, now you are. I can see your face.
Yeah.
All right.
I was getting darker as the story
At
was
the
getting.
story, yeah. Up to now, it's like we don't know what happened to this
Yeah,
man.
but this man surrounded by women. Yeah,
It's a
because
man surrounded by women, but it's a man that, I mean, nothing happens as apparently nothing happens. Common day at the office with someone who is upset for a reason we don't know. And we empathize with him because it's a poor man. What is happening to him? Flashback, first flashback, big one because it's the complete chapter 2 or part 2. That's the flashback, and we know that more than a year ago he had met a woman called Sabine. This says that he met at the entrance to the Marion Square, and the first paragraph of the setting, the description of the setting, is the Marion Square, so it is where he's working. So from his office, he sees Merrion Square, that by the way is a big square in the middle of Dublin, very big, a park. I would say it's a park. Um, so he goes back to that memory. So when he was looking through the window to Merrion Square, now we understand that he was thinking about Sabine. That's where they met for the first time. Uh, Again, it was summer, so it was more than a year ago, but more or less the same time. And there is a link to the perfume. No, that the first part ended in a note about perfume, and there she says, breathing in her perfume as they view the painting. So they went to the museum, the National Gallery is around the corner, so they coincide there, and his memory is the memory of his perfume, her perfume, sorry. Uh, it seems that he liked her from the beginning, even though she's not perfect. And there is a description of her eyes, for example. They are not they are not the same. There is a little bit of something wrong in one of her eyes. She is petite. She's not very tall, but I mean, he is attracted from the beginning. And then when they get together or they start dating, we understand that she's a good cook. Uh, so even a kind of sophisticated cook, no?
Yeah.
And there is an anticipation, I feel, of this relationship in a sentence that says, the woman would cook. Even now, he had to say that much for her, so he appreciates that. But a part of him always resented the number of dirty dishes, having to rinse them all before stacking them in the dishwasher. So, okay, the woman is an excellent cook. He resents the dirty dishes. So we start seeing, hey, why are you saying this? No, so there is like an anticipation of things were not perfect in the kingdom. Well, they went on. They went on with this relationship. We know that they had met like 2 years before, but she had not paid so much attention to him. Then they got together, and little by little, she started staying in his house in Wicklow. As I told you, the Wicklow is, I don't know, it must be an hour from Dublin, but it's like a very nice natural place. It's not a big city, and from the beginning we have these things were lukewarm on her side at the beginning. So he was uh, very much interested in her. She was like lukewarm, but he didn't push. He invited her over. She liked the nature. So she, little by little, started spending most of her weekends in his house. And they started going to farmers markets to buy organic things, etc., etc. And there appears some kind of leitmotif, I find, because he talks a lot about money and how much things cost. And it's not just it tells you something about him, no? That even though he can see that she cooks well, that she has taste for the exotic, that she could do exotic cook or things that you don't normally eat, that is even much better than going to a restaurant, it costs a lot. And he's always saying it, no? Um, For example, let me see if it's here. Yeah, for example, she didn't seem to mind the expense and bought freely. Loaves of sourdough bread, organic fruit and vegetables, plants and sole and mussels of the fish van, which came out from the Kilmore Quay. Once, he'd seen her pay €4 for an ordinary looking head of cabbage. In September, she went along the back roads with his colander, picking hazelnuts off the trees. Then a local farmer told her she could gather the wild mushrooms off his fields. She'd made hazelnut biscuits, mushroom soup, almost everything she brought home she cooked, with apparent Highland unease, with what Cajal looked to be love. So he loves, but there's always the expenses in his buying, no? Always expenses. And immediately there is another episode when she forgets the purse and
He has to pay for
he
her.
has to pay, and well, it cost him
It was
a
six,
little.
yeah, €6.
6 euros. 6 euros is nothing. Well, but I mean,
But for him, came to more than six
I think
euros.
that he is being really stingy. I don't think he has problem with money. He has never said that he has problem with money, because you can understand if he says I cannot afford that. He never says he can't afford it. We suspect that he's really tight, no? And stingy. And
Or at least this food is not his priority.
no,
To eat healthily, to be
yes, no, and not just
enjoy.
healthy. She
I enjoying
exactly.
because it's not.
She's like a chef, no?
Yeah, it's food not because you need to eat. It's to enjoy.
To enjoy and to stay together and to go to markets and buy the elements to
Yeah, but
later.
taking she likes picking things
Yeah,
and taking
that is
them
also
and washing them.
showing that you care, no? Um, and there comes the question, the big question, no? It says, and ask if they should marry. So why don't we marry? Okay, again, red lights appear. It says,
Mhm.
why don't we? She let sound a type of choked laughter. What sort of way is this of asking? It seems like you are almost making some type of argument against it. Yes, in the same question there is like a well, ya que estamos,
Yeah,
why don't we marry? And he says somewhere says, well, we get on together well. Uh, you have problems with the rent. You are living with other two people, so you want to save in the rent. You like my place. You like Wicklock. Why don't we marry? Seems like a convenience. Not I love you. Let's get married. No.
mhm.
Or would you like to marry me because I love you? No. Um. And he says when she says, and what do you mean?
Yeah, and then there is no reason why you shouldn't live here instead of paying the rent.
Exactly.
Practical.
Yes. Too much. No. So
Yeah.
and look at this when she says, what do you mean by that? He says her command of the English language sometimes grated. And she's English, and her mother was French, and her father was English, or the other way around. I don't remember, but she has no problem with the language. He's it's an excuse. We say, how is it that you're asking me? What do you mean? I mean, let's marry, but not because I love you. At least he doesn't say it, no. So there comes all the things he thinks are good for them to get married. Like as you say, very practical things. And then the child also.
Long time, yeah.
The
Why?
child,
Hmm. There's
yes.
no reason why we couldn't have a child.
Instead of, well, I would like to have a child with you, I would have to start a family. He hasn't even watched a romantic movie, no, to copy at least. So you start getting I don't know, that happens to me. You start getting irritating, no, with him. You start so at the beginning we empathize with him because he's having I don't know a rough patch moment, and then you realize, aha, well, we are understanding. We don't know much about this. We understand that she's no longer there, but we don't know what is going on, but we are suspecting. And at the same time we are understanding his ways, no, and his character. Then the engagement ring.
But
Okay.
do you like that idea? Child is
Yes,
not an idea. She said.
exactly. Yes, and the cat immediately say, well, if you don't want a child, a cat, as if they
And,
were the same, no?
we can
And
get a
yes,
cat.
yes. So
It's like, yeah.
he puts the
Well,
cat.
if you cook, let's be traditional because you're a woman who can cook.
Yes. So
So let's do all the traditional
and we have
steps.
the child, and you come to live in my house. Yes. Okay. Uh, and then the question of the engagement ring, no? So it says she was not very excited when she went to see the engagement ring, and of course, again, have a problem with the money.
Hmm.
Apparently, he says that nobody had told him that there was an additional charge of VAT of 128 euros. Um, but she said that they had told him, so he is very upset. And there comes the phrase, "Do you think I'm made of money?" he said, and immediately felt the long shadow of his father's language crossing over his life, on what should have been a good day, if not one of his happiest. So, again, his family, no? And the father, so what is, then we will have a horrible anecdote that will confirm this question of the way he has been raised,
Yes.
but that he has not overcome that because he seems a modern man until the moment when he gets in a relationship with a woman. So he, with some difficulty, as his hands were steady, had prized the MasterCard from his wallet, so he was reluctant to take the card from his wallet to pay. And the jeweler then said something that again gives you another clue. Be careful because this item is not refundable. We won't give you the money back. And I'm not sure if anyone who is buying um, or who is buying you an engagement ring, you would say that. I guess that the man knew better, and at the same time, it's a clue for us to know. We have had many clues for us to know what is going to happen. That is, marriage, a non-refundable marriage. No?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that when said everything like, "Do you think I'm made of money?" and all that in front of this guy, this
Yeah,
couple
because
won't
it
last.
says the jeweler pressed his lips together as though resisting an urge to say something more. So he didn't want he bit his lips, no, not to say anything because he was about to say. And then, congratulations, may you have a long and happy marriage. Well, that's something that I'm sure he always said.
Hmm.
All right, so we are building up a character that is completely different from the character we had in number one. So number one is the number one part, number one, I mean. Number one is the present, Cajal's present, where we pity him. And now in number two, we've got his past, or the flashback of memory of what happened to him. And we start knowing him a little bit better. By the end of this chapter or part, we have that the weather has changed, and in a way,
But
the weather accompanied the mood, no? A drizzle of rain. So it says, but the rest of the weekend went remarkably well. As the hours passed, she seemed to slowly forgive him. So she was really mad at him, no? So we understand the situation. We understand Cajal is not a reliable witness, and we are understanding also his ways. Number three is the present again. Part three is the present again.
again, the bus tour, the
Uh-huh.
bus. There's always a bus.
Yes. It's the same bus.
Number one, there is a bus. Number two, there is a bus too.
Yes, but number three is the
And
first,
number three
is
is,
the bus in number one that he has arrived home.
yeah.
So it said, when the bus stopped in Aklo, Cajal got off along with some others. So it's his bus stop. This one is the one that we saw in the first one. It says, Cajal wondered if this wasn't the farmer who told Sabine she could gather the mushroom of his field. So he's still thinking about Sabine. So he looks at the man with working clothes, and it was a farmer, and he wondered if that wasn't the man who had allowed Sabine to pick up mushrooms in his field. So there's always a connection with Sabine. So we don't know why this connection, when they apparently they are not together. Apparently we don't know much yet. We think that she's not in the show yet. So, but he's still thinking, no? And now we understand that he has bought the cat because he's got a cat, but
Mhm.
Sabine is nowhere to be found. As Mathilde, that is the cat, doesn't appear at the beginning because apparently he had locked her in the bathroom. Again, we have another clue because it says there was nothing fresh here. A jar of three fruits marmalade, Dijon mustard, ketchup and mayonnaise, champagne, a packet of short-dated rashers, a phallus-shaped cake with fresh color icing, which his brother had ordered as a joke for the stag party. So we have like two clues here. The first one is that there is nothing fresh to eat.
No, Sabine.
No Sabine around. Also, all the things he has in his fridge are like sophisticated in a way. But there's a jar of three fruits marmalade, Dijon mustard.
Well, she left.
Okay, the leftovers of Sabine.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then the clue is, sorry, a phallus-shaped cake with flesh-colored icing, which his brother had ordered as a joke for the stag party. So there was a stag party, or there was going to be a stag party. You know what is a stag party, ¿no? Es la despedida de
Before
soltero.
getting, before getting married, yeah.
La despedida de soltero. The bachelorette party or stag party. Now, so if the cake is all completed, there was no stag party.
No,
At the
because there's
same
language
time,
in it.
we know that it's fresh. So it's not from 3 months before. It's fresh. So we are getting little clues of what happened. All right. Um, and then he has, like he says, a feeling not unlike happiness momentarily cross over his lips, then and down his throat, because he remembers something about his childhood or adolescence with his brother. Um, he continues talking, not talking, sorry, looking for something to watch, and there's a cookery program. I mean, and that is something that I'm not think he would like to see or to watch.
Mhm.
He again look out the streets. I mean, it's a description of a lonely person.
Yeah, using the microwave instead of using
Exactly,
cooking.
exactly. And the flashback again. And the flashback again is not, I mean, well, reveals a lot about his temperament, his ways, no? So first he says, sorry, that this question of the Weight Watcher, that he finds some food pre-cooked because she was on a diet. So again, we understand that this question of not being with Sabine is recent because there is a Weight Watcher food there, something to eat that he's eating now, because she wanted to fit in the dress, typical of us,
Okay.
that we want to be thinner. Although she was okay, he said, but well, and she had showed him. the wedding dress because she was not superstitious. I wrote, she was not superstitious,
But
or but something happened. On the other hand, maybe
now
she.
she will be.
Okay, now you realize that she showed the wedding dress and there was no wedding. That could be. Or the other thing I thought is she didn't care that much. But I'm
About
not sure. But that's is underneath, no? And she stopped making dinner most evenings. So again, another thing that he liked of her, that she cooked very well. She stopped because she wanted to eat the Weight Watchers food, pre-cooked food, for being slim. So he said that was part of the trouble. The fact that she would not listen and wanted to do a good half of things her own way. This is exactly what she is going to say later on of him. So we start seeing the real problems of going on there. So we have the money, the cooking, the communication, and now we add something else. That is that she comes with a lot of things. And something that she says, and what would you expect? I have a life somewhere. I have to put my things. So what would you think?
They don't know each other very well, huh?
No, no, they don't know each other very well. He has not cared about knowing her well, or he had not paid attention.
Or he had never visited her place
No,
because
in
he
the
doesn't
place apparently
know.
not, because she was living with someone else, with two other people. So maybe they always stayed together in his place. But at the same time, it's logical that you invite someone, or you invite, in this case, they were going to get married. She had to come with everything I mean, her life, her life
Yes.
in a suitcase and a lot of boxes. And he says, and there we have like a list, no? Uh, Makeup, books, skirts and blouses, pots and pans, a yoga mat, wooden hangers, a water filter, canister of tea, a coffee grinder. Of course, of course. And then she said, "Do you love me?" she asked, once most of her things were in place and several of his had been repositioned. Yes. She had sat down beside him at that point on the edge of the bed. Of course. So what is wrong? There's nothing. Tell me, she had insisted. I just don't know about this stuff, that's all. Which stuff? My stuff? These things. All your things. All this. He was looking around at the blue throw, the two extra pillows, pairs of shoes and sandals, most of which he had never seen her wearing, poking out from under his chest of drawers. He himself owned Nikes and just one pair of shoes. So do you think I would come without nothing? It's just a lot. So criticism again, no? A lot of things that you have. And what did you imagine, that it would come with nothing? So there is a big argument here. Uh, so you asked me to come here to marry you, and you thought I was going to come barehanded. It's not possible. So again, she was mad about this. And again, they had an argument, bitter. Um, there's this question of money again. Oh, there's always. Let me see, where is it? Ah, the delivery thing. He wanted to, or she wanted to order Chinese food, and he wanted to go and get it, and she said, "I don't want to go. It's just 4 euros." And he says, "There is no reason we have to spend 4 euros if I can go walking." And again, money is always present. So he's very stingy there, no? There is this encounter between Cynthia, the partner that we saw at the beginning in part one, is the one who is laughing on the phone, and he doesn't want to go on talking with her. to talk directly. Cynthia had met Sabine, and they were talking about Irishmen in general. I don't know if they talk in particular about him or not, but they were given a picture of uh, Irishman that looks like any man in the world. In fact, it's not so different. Um, but the question is that it says that it says, this is, she said things may now be changing, but that a good half of men your age just want us to shut up and give you what you want. That you are spoiled and turn contemptible when things don't go your way. No, a little bit childish, but okay, that's the way they said. And he wanted to deny it, but it felt uncomfortably close to a truth he had not once considered. So we are disclosing his real personality that not even himself knew about this question of being with someone else. And here, someone else. And here it says that was the problem with women falling out of love. The veil of romance fell away from their eyes, and they looked in and could read you. So he is putting the blame on her. She is falling out of love, and she is the one who looked at you and reads you, but she is reading the truth, no?
Mm-hmm.
And this is she also said that some of you we are just cunts, and that is important because in the end he's going to repeat that, no? Well, of course, he says he wants to justify himself, saying that that's just the way we talk among men. It's not true, etc., etc. But again, so now they start talking, reproaching things, and she's like reproaching him things that she had never done before. For example, you never thank me for a dinner. You never thank me for the groceries I bought. Um, you never say anything to the lady or the cleaning lady. Everybody gave her a present or a card to the cleaning lady in the office. You never say anything. Um, you have problems with the money because it's, did you help or just watch? She asked. And that night you bought the cherries at Lidl. You told me they cost more than €6. So you know what is at the heart of misogyny when it comes down to it? So I'm misogynist now. It's simply about not giving. She said, whether it's believing you should not give us the vote or not give help with the dishes,
And
it's
then
all,
it comes with that he doesn't like washing the dishes.
you know, that is, yes, connected to that. So the question is that you are not giving. You are not giving thanks. You are not giving your money. You are not giving. You are asking but not giving. So that's the clue. Well, there we understand as readers that everything is like close to the end. Uh, she finishes with, you know, you knew exactly what I meant, but you cannot even give me this much. That is the confusion of the words, no? She says it's not glitch, it's hitch. So he corrects her in the middle of an argument. You want to kill him directly. And then this is, you don't even understand what I'm talking about. So, and he doesn't remember much about that. No, he doesn't remember much about the argument. He, in the end, helped with the dishes, typical. But everything stopped there. And apparently, well, things went on. 4 is again the present, isn't it?
Mhm.
So he decides to watch a Netflix series. Uh, and of course, the flashback. No, it's not a flashback really. He's because he says as soon as the vows were made and the wedding ring had been exchanged, Cajal automatically pressed the rewind button, etc., etc., of the movie. The movie was a documentary of Diana. So
On Lady
on
Diana, yeah.
Lady Diana, did a documentary of all his life and they getting pregnant, etc. So he starts thinking about what he should have been doing by this time. Um, and it says, a painful wave of something he hadn't before experienced came at him, without bloating at the day, which was almost over. He would have liked to have slept then, but sleep too seemed beyond his reach. He looked at the messages, nothing from her, so we understanding that there has been a good argument. And then his brother that says, you're better off without a fresh whore.
Hmm.
So you realize she's not there any longer.
And that men speak like that.
And that men
That she
speak like
said.
that, exactly. And then there is the anecdote of the mother, which is very cruel, very cruel. So if you remember it, is that they, of course, they were all waiting for her to lay dinner on the table, and they were not very young. They were in their 20s, so they understood what they were doing. And his brother pulled the chair off. So when her mother was going to sit, she fell. And he said she must have been near 60 years of age at that time because she had married late. So knowing that she was not a very young woman, that could have been a real disaster, they did it and they laughed. All of three of them had laughed heartily and had kept on laughing while she picked the pancakes and the pieces of the broken plate up off the floor. Oh my God, you really want to kill them all, and you understand what kind of person Cajal is, and that Sabine is okay to flee. It was just a bad joke, he says. He told himself it meant little, that it was just a bad joke. Because he felt inclined not to think it over. So he doesn't want to talk about it. It's always the same way. He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to think about it. He denies things, no? And of course, when he says, by now they would have had their first dance and might still have been dancing. So there we understand that Sabine left him in the altar directly. It was that's why the boss had been so kind. The other girl at the office had stopped laughing because he was in mourning, supposedly. But you say that I mean, you see, we understand that he's distressed and upset and he can't sleep, but he doesn't say anything about being broken-hearted. He says he had paid for trace of blah 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 blah. Um, says it was money he would never again see. Right? He thought of those cherries and how she had half stormed them that evening. He'd asked her to marry him. So he's never thinking about that he is broken-hearted, or what had he done for her to leave him before marrying. So it's, I mean, he is impossible. And then he says, when Cajal pulled the curtains, the window was wide open. The inflated castle that was opposite was still out there. He could see it clearly under the streetlight, but there were no children now, no? This question of children. And he says, cunt. And then, again, he repeats fucking cunt when he is talking about other women.
Women. Yeah.
So it the only thing that we notice that he is like a little bit angry says a current of excited anger was rising up through his blood, and at one point, when he was standing on the arm of the sofa to reach unsuccessfully for it, he thought of Monica, the foreign cleaner on the stairs, and how she'd watch him as he'd pass on what should have been his wedding day. There we have the certainty, and of Cynthia, and how she had smiled that morning, and how she had taken Sabine off, unbeknownst to him, to the Shelburne Hotel, fucking cunts. So all the women are that, no? So what is interesting about this
In the
short
giant
story?
thing he couldn't return.
So yeah, I was like he would never admit it that he has spoiled the relationship. Of course not. But what is interesting from the point of view of writing, and that's why I paired it with Hemingway's, is that we don't know until the end. With this last phrase, she changed her mind and had no wish to marry him after all. So it's a great description of how a relationship was spoiled and burned by him, and how he started as an empathic person or someone you can empathize with, and ended up saying what he says to women to him without saying it. So that's the mastery of the story, no? That she never said anything that we start suspecting all the time, but he plays with the character, with the unsaid,
Mhm.
and without saying, she constructs all the story without really saying the problem. But by the end, we have the spectacular ending, or more, I would say the certainty of what we have been suspecting, really. So I think that is one of I mean, she is a very good narrator, and this was excellent, no? To start understanding that is something wrong until we realize what happened without saying it. And that's why it says, is I don't know if he's capable to change so late in the day, or maybe so late in his life it would be, no? That's like the end. So pairing it with that is Hills Like White Elephant, that we have a character, a male character, that is in a way similar to Cahal, although 40 years, no, more than 40, is, let me see, like not 100, but let's say 90 years before. Hills Like White Elephant was written in 19, let me see, 27. Um, yes, in 1927, it was part of the story collection Men Without Women. And so we have to think of the setting in the 20s. This story is very, I mean, it's narrated and dialogues, little bit of description, nothing of description of the characters, but we understand what they look like, what or how they are, without having those descriptions. That's again the mastery of Hemingway with his minimal prose. And in a way, Keegan also does the same, of course, more modern. So these two, uh, this couple are waiting for the train to go to Madrid, supposedly, in Spain. It's the American and the girl. We don't know their names. We don't know if the girl is American. We suppose she is also. They are having some drinks, waiting for the train. It's hot. Again, another story that is hot. And they drink beers and anise. And she starts saying that the clouds look like white elephants because, in fact, she doesn't want to talk about the obvious. And she wants to say something like intelligent so he can consider her. Because throughout the dialogue, we understand that he is also like Cahal, a misogynist. I mean, he is pushing her into doing an abortion. That is never mentioned. That's why I
But they
paired.
talk about operation and
Yes,
about being the same after.
exactly. And in those times, abortion was pretty illegal, very dangerous, and well, infections, etc., etc. And out of marriage, imagine, no? We are talking about the 20s, almost 100 years ago. I wouldn't say almost 100 years ago. So we have to think about that, no? If in some ways it's still a kind of problem to have an abortion, imagine in those times, no? So she is not convinced because she is afraid, not just of what can happen to her, that she's afraid, but
Also,
also of their relationship.
yeah, what can happen to the relationship?
Besides, it shows, I mean, we understand that he is older than she is and that he is pushing her into doing it because she says, stop talking about it, I don't want to talk about it, cut it out, say you started it. And then she says, I don't want to talk anymore. If you go on talking, I'll scream. And he says, but if you don't want to do it, we won't do it. But we understand that he doesn't mean that, no? He says, I don't want you to do it if you don't want to. I'm perfectly willing to go through with it if it means anything to you. So is he talking about the baby that he is going to go through even if it means anything to you? So Cajal has said in 2023, the house can have this, a cat and a baby, and he says something similar, no? If it means anything to you. So things are very similar, unluckily, no? So the
She's
master,
not, yeah. She
sorry,
says,
sorry, sorry, say,
no, the way she feels, because she says, yeah, if I do it, will you be happy and things will
hmm
be like they were? Will you love me?
hmm
Okay, she's not very convinced. She's doing it because of him.
because of him. Well, same happens in so late in the day. She asked him, do you love me? And remember when she brings the clothes and says, do you love me? And so what do you think about this? Why are you upset? Because I brought a lot of clothes. So the couples are similar in a way, no? That she, although of course it's going to be, the end is going to be different. We suppose that she is going to go to Madrid to have the abortion. Um, he is very, I mean, he treated this operation that he says, it's all mentioned once, very lightly. Although in those times it was very dangerous. And she means it's just because I read that in those times, first of all, I don't want to be very specific because but at the same time, I don't know anything about medicine. And luckily, Nacho, that is the doctor of the group, was not here to say anything. But I mean, they did it with air. That's the only thing I can say. They put some air and they think that they think no that and that made something to the uterus and the baby. I'm saying something completely wrong, but it has to do with air because he says this question of air. It's just air. Acá. I'll go with you and I'll stay with you all the time. They just let the air in and then it's all perfectly natural. Well, okay, it's not that like that. It wasn't like that. Imagine that many women die nowadays. Imagine in those times. Um, and she is very young, and the dialogue is wonderful because you feel the tension. You are there listening, and it's like you feel the tension that there's something wrong. That the questions they ask each other, or the things he says all the time the same. She doesn't want to hear. There's a moment when she doesn't want to hear anymore uh, because of this question of, do you care about me? Would you be the same? This question of the clouds like that look like white elephant. That is, she wants to please him in a way, and of course uh, to move the dialogue to another thing, no, to talk about something that has nothing to do with the problem. But he doesn't follow. He goes on and on and on, and then she says, we could have all this, and we could have everything, and every day we make it more impossible. What do you say? I say we could have everything. We can have everything. No, we can't. We can have the whole world. No, we can't. So she feels that it is not going to be the same. We can go everywhere. No, we can't. It isn't ours anymore. They had been to many places because later he says he picked up the two heavy bags and carried them around the station to be at the tracks. No, it's not there. Sorry. It's when it says that there are lots of names of hotels where they were.
There were labels from all the
Exactly.
hotels where
So
they had nights.
they had been in many places, and not any longer. She understands that this is not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Not so. What is interesting about this story that it was rejected by the editors at the beginning, and it was rejected by the readers. They didn't understand. They didn't understand what the story was about, and they thought that it was a story without a plot because it was not a traditional story. Imagine this is written in 1927 and it looks so modern because he's repeating a dialogue without saying who is right, who is saying it, but you understand perfectly well who is saying what. But it wasn't I mean, in those times, nobody wrote like that. You have the said, she, or he, or whatever, or ask, or, but
And
you have no.
intention and the operation and
Exactly. And it was rejected, but it's a story that is rescued late in the 20th century to be considered a masterpiece. Uh, he had said always that he was one of his favorite ones, and nobody understood him. But of course, it's like perhaps it was ahead of times in the 1927, the story, to understand it properly, no? And also to um, put on the table things that happened in those times, no? The chauvinist man pushing the girl to do something she didn't like, not to have the responsibility of, well, we're having a child, let's see what we do. Well, let's go and have an operation. It's easy, nothing will happen to you. There is a plot, but the plot and this, I would say that this story is a typical story, Hemingway story, that he said this question of the theory of the iceberg, no? That he said that there was on the surface there was a story, but the real surface was under the water. The real story is there, the girl being pregnant and he making her commit an abortion that she seems not to want, and he's pushing her all the time, and we are not sure what is going to happen afterwards. Imagine that if they didn't go on together, they didn't get married, the one who was going to suffer rejection in society was going to be her. If someone knew, if someone saw her, if someone spoke about it, she is going to be badly seen, not him. So
yeah.
her future is not very sure. Um,
I was also thinking about the white elephant, these buildings that are left containers.
oh, I haven't thought about it. Yes, that
uh,
are left.
things that were yeah, things that were expected to be wonderful and they
Mhm.
were abandoned and are there.
Yes, why not? Yes, you're right. So in the dialogue, nothing is revealed and everything is revealed. That's the mastery of what is happening. There is no mentioning of baby, there is no mention of pregnancy, and there is no mention of abortion, but it's everything there. And he he minimizes the risk she's going to be, uh, and says that's the only thing that bother us, is the only thing that's make us unhappy, so we have to take it off, no? The only thing that bothers us, the rest of the world we are fine, but this bothers us. Well, this is your responsibility too, no? Well, so it's a very strong and very daring story for the time it was written. But of course, it was written in that way that, as I said, for me, it's ahead of time, and people did not understand it and didn't like it in those times because there was no plot. Well, it wasn't a traditional story like presentation, setting, development, and conclusion, but it is a story, and
Yeah.
there's a lot there, no? There's a lot to understand, and everything contributes to understanding what is going on and what will happen later. In the two cases, in the case of the So Late in the Day and Hills Like White Elephants, the techniques, let's say, are similar in that the problem is not stated, the conflict is not stated, that we have clues to understand it until the end. Well, especially in So Late in the Day, in Hills Like White Elephant, he never mentioned it with the words, but we
Yes, but
understand.
we don't know the one by Tina. We don't know what made her stop the relationship because she was kind of accepting all the other differences. We don't know which was the last thing. Yeah, the last straw.
Maybe the engagement ring, no? Maybe the last part.
Well,
Maybe
we
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I think that she sat
Well,
down.
you have to guess it or think that maybe something else happened
No, maybe
in those days.
you are about to get. She was about to get married, and maybe the penny drop. Say, do I really
Yeah.
like to get married with it? So everything came together as a kind of say no, 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 no. I can't. No, I can't. Okay. Well, did you like the stories?
Yes, I did a lot.
Yes.
I
Well,
didn't know the one about from Hemingway. I read
okay.
Hemingway. But this one was new to me.
Well, Hemingway. It's always nice to read Hemingway, and in this case, I think that Claire Keegan has a lot in common with Hemingway and with others like Chekhov, etc., with the classics. No, this way of narrating is not a copy. But she's very modern, but she pays homage to a lot of narrations that are interesting and classic. Well, I will send you the program for next month if you want
The
to.
program for
It's not.
September.
We will see how to go on, and I hope to see you again any moment.
Okay, okay,
Thank you,
thank you.
Merlina. Thank you very much.
Okay, did you watch the short video?
Yes, I did. Yes,
It
yes, I
was
did.
very good. It
Yes,
was
yes, yes. It was exactly what the story is.
the stories. Yeah,
Yes, yes, and it was very old, no? In the 60s it was done.
yeah. It was
Yes,
all. Yeah,
it looked the way they
yeah,
were dressed, etc. But it was perfect for the
yeah.
short story. Okay, thank you.
See you.
Hope to see you. Bye bye.